You know what? Can we cut Lauri out of the rest of this, please?
You're listening to the Creative Faith and Friends podcast, episode number 17.
Oh, I got you. There's no reason to chasing payment on my own, 'cause you're here to stay every night and day. I'm delighted 'cause I got you. La, la, la.
Well, welcome to the Creative Faith and Friends podcast. My name is Melissa Olson from pinkpaperpeppermints.com. And today I'm here with my two co-hosts, Lauri. Hi, Lauri.
Hey, everybody.
And Jessica. Hi, Jess.
Hey, y'all.
And we are talking about fabric collage today. We're really excited. We're kind of using it as a transition. We've been talking about mixed media and collage. And so now we're going to start a series on fabric. We're going to do several episodes on fabric, but today we're talking about fabric collage. So we've got lots of fun stuff to share with you. And before we start, though, we want to do some happy mail. And Jess has some happy mail for us today.
I do, and this is a review that was left on iTunes by Lisa at Just Stitched, and it says, it was titled, "So Much Joy. This is a wonderful conversation amongst friends. I feel like a fly on the wall as they discuss creativity and faith. Had me thinking, how would I describe my style of faith journaling, and what are some of my favorite products? I can't wait for the next episode. These three creative friends will have you dusting off your excessively purchased, unopened art supplies and diving into God's Word in a whole new way. Fresh, fun, and faith-centered. Thank you so much, Lisa. That's so sweet.
Lisa.
That was awesome.
That
She's
was
so
good.
funny.
She
knows us a
We
little
love
too
her.
well, I think. She's got us pegged.
So if you would like to leave us a comment that we can share here on the podcast, or tell us a story, or share a tip or an idea, or ask us a question, you can do that. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, or you can leave us a comment on the blog at pinkpaperpeppermints.com/podcast. And we would love to hear from you and share your comments here on the blog, here on the podcast. So, okay, let's talk about fabric collage. There are lots of different kinds of fabric collage. My favorite kind, and I don't know about you guys, you tell me what your favorite kind is. I love like the slow stitching, layered kind of abstract collage.
That is Lauri's love language over there.
Oh my gosh, I'm in love with that stuff. Yes, I'm totally with you, Mel.
Me too. The textures and the layers and the stitches and the beads, and I just love it so much.
Yes.
But there's also a collage. They use fabric kind of like mosaic tiles almost. Like they create images, landscapes, and animals and things, and they use the light and darks of the fabric to create the shading and create pictures with it. And I think that is really beautiful too.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I think about doing that, if I was doing like a picture of a rabbit, I'd probably give up right when I was done with the ears.
I'm assuming you'd start with the ears.
Yeah, if I started with the ears. Right, like, because I just see myself, I tend to like things that get done really quickly. That's why I love some of the stuff that we've talked about, like beeswax collage is really fast and instant. So I don't know that I have the patience for that, but I really, when I see it, it makes me want to try it. Maybe if I did like little mini ones,
Yeah, that's a good
3
idea.
by 3 inch. But those are really, really beautiful. And then, of course, there's beeswax collage. I just did a little mini beeswax collage where I used fabric in it. And that's really fun because you don't have to use any adhesive, and the beeswax kind of soaks into the fabric.
Oh, yeah.
And the fabric gets a little transparent. And then if you do that with papers, you can see the papers through the fabric, and it's really pretty.
Ooh, that's neat.
That is
I'm going to have to try that. I didn't think about putting fabric in beeswax. What a good idea.
Yeah. What are some other kinds that you guys have seen, or is there a kind that you like?
I don't think this is the technical term of it, of course, but
Uh-oh.
I like using fabric as a messy collage, just like I like using paper and other things. Even when I'm sewing, if I do a fabric collage, a lot of times it's just it's not thrown because I place it pretty carefully, but I'd like to call that slap collage, where you slap it down and put it on. But I don't think that's the technical term of it, but that's kind of what I think of it as, and that's my favorite. Slap Collage.
I think that's what we should call it from now
We
on.
can call it Mississippi Slap Collage.
I love it.
Even better.
Yes.
That is perfect.
That's perfect.
It almost sounds like a yummy dessert.
Yes. Like Mississippi.
Mississippi mud.
Yes. Mississippi mud.
Yeah.
Mississippi dirt cake. Yep.
So, okay, some of the things that you can use collage for, obviously you can just collage in your journal or you can create artwork that you would hang on the wall. But also, I think it makes a really fun gift to create a collage and then sew it into, it's kind of like what you do with your fabric covers and things, Jess.
Mm-hmm.
Sew it into a fabric cover or sew it into a tote bag. You can also decoupage it onto a box or
Yes.
a book cover or something like that. So there's a lot of ways that you can use it. Greeting cards too. You can do little mini collages on the front of a handmade card, and that makes a really nice gift.
Oh, you know what else you could do? You could make yourself a little bracelet with it. If you have a piece of
Yes.
fabric as your base and then like a button
Ooh.
with a loop. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be so pretty. I've actually seen their little bracelets with little trays in them, and you do like a teeny tiny collage in the tray, and then you put a glass.
Oh, yeah.
What is that
I don't
called,
know.
Jess? Like a little.
A teeny tiny collage.
But a lot of times they use epoxy over it to make it. Yeah.
I bought some stuff like this at the quilt show years ago. My mom and I, you know how when you see a demo and then you just buy all the things
Oh,
that
yeah.
go
Yes.
because
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
my mom and I saw this demo and that's what it was, but it was a necklace. But you don't have to have the epoxy because they have these like little glass toppers.
I'm pretty sure I have some of those from the same kind of thing. Yes.
That makes
Oh
me
my
laugh
gosh.
so hard. When we have like our 1 year anniversary of the podcast, I'm going to compile Lauri saying, "Oh, I have those."
Yes,
On
please.
every episode.
Please do. We're going to get Lauri a shirt that says that. It's going to say,
I have that.
Oh, I have that. Oh,
But
dear.
yeah, but that is really neat, and it's really easy to do because it's so small.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if we're still talking about fabric collage. I
I'm
think
not
I got
either.
off track,
we
but
got it. We did, but it could be because you could use fabric under those little
Yeah.
glass circles.
Yeah. I mean, fabric is so beautiful, especially the vintage stuff that
Yes.
all you have to do is cut a little piece of it and then take a word that you cut out of a book and glue it to it, and you're done.
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
just that simple. You can make a beautiful collage.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love incorporating fabric with paper in my collage and just mixing it all together.
Yes.
And like we had talked about, what were the little bits that you just grab from around your desk and stick it all together? I
Yeah.
often include fabric in those. I love that.
Yeah, me too. That's how I ended up putting fabric in that beeswax, was just I had some scraps laying there.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way fabric and paper looks together, like
Yes.
layered up and like sewed together. And I
Mhm.
just love that.
It creates such a textural element in any
Mhm.
collage that you're doing.
It does. So, okay, well, let's talk about some of the tools. Obviously, you need fabric, but then also any ribbon and trim, buttons.
Mhm.
Lace. You need lace.
Oh, lace is so much fun.
Those are all good things to put into your collage. And
Mhm.
then obviously you need a good pair of scissors, which I think we've talked about before, our
Yeah.
favorite scissors
Mhm.
when we talked about collage. But for fabric, you obviously want just your fabric scissors.
Whole different ball game.
Yeah, the ones you hide from your family so they
Yes.
don't.
And threaten
That's
their
fun.
life if they cut
Mhm.
paper with them.
Yes.
Yes.
And glue. Now, I really like Fabrifix for gluing fabric to paper because it dries really fast, but I've been having issues with it lately. I texted Lauri and Jessica a picture because I was not happy. My Fabrifix bottle, I really don't know what happened. All of a sudden the glue just started exploding out of the top of the cap, out the side. The cap was all pushed off and there was just this huge bubble of glue. And I'm like texting them going, I hate all glue manufacturers.
Yeah. No offense, Fabrifix glue manufacturers.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe what happened was it was upside down in the container, in the box that it had this box of supplies.
Mhm.
And then I don't know if I told you all this or not, but Fabrifix, I don't know what's in it, but it will eat anything that it touches, which I don't.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's how it works, is that it just basically melts the fabric to the paper.
Into it.
Could be.
Because I had a plastic baggie and it melted the baggie. It leaked in the baggie and it melted
Wow.
it. So yeah.
That's concerning.
That's kind of crazy.
I know. Like, don't get it on your fingers and leave it on your fingers for a long time.
It's kind of like super glue, right?
Yeah. And it doesn't smell very good, but it works really, really well for getting glued to paper. So,
well, I'm going to tell you the art glitter glue also works well with paper.
Yes, you had mentioned that to me before, and I think last week or week before. So I started using it, and I was really surprised at how fast it dries. Like, I never used it for anything that I needed to dry fast because I just didn't think that it would dry very fast, but it actually really does.
Yeah.
It does. It gives you enough time to reposition something if needed. But then once you're pretty much done putting it together, it's done. Like, it's dry.
Yeah. It really is. It's an excellent glue. And I love the little metal tip because it makes it easy to get it precisely where you want the glue.
Tiny details, yeah.
Yeah. Another good thing to use with fabric is heat and bond. And if y'all have seen my video on junk journaling, that's how I did my little golden book journal, is I use heat and bond to do a fabric spine. And I'll link that in the show notes.
I just did one of those the other day. I'm making a couple of them for a friend of mine. Our boys went off to the Army. So I'm making one of my friends a book, and I did some Army fabric on the spine. And that's exactly what I was using, was the Heat and Bond Ultra. And it's awesome.
Isn't it? It makes it so easy.
And I will tell you, if you don't get it melted on right the first time, it comes right off.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because those little golden books have that shiny coating on them. So it's almost like hot glue where you can pull it off.
Yeah.
But then once you press it on really well, it doesn't come off. I've got several journals that I've had for years, and it's not lifting at all.
Yeah, that's a staple in everything I do with fabric, is the heat and bond.
It's the heat and bond. And it's really good when you want to cut shapes out of your fabric.
Yes.
You can heat and bond a big piece of fabric and then run that through your silhouette and cut shapes out of it, and then it's already coated in the heat and bond, so then you can just iron that shape onto whatever you're working on.
Now that is pretty smart, Melissa. I like that. That's a great idea. Why don't I think of these things?
Yeah, because you can draw on the back of that paper and it makes it easy.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. I don't think I thought of that. I think that is something I learned from a quilter, like a quilting blog.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. I like that.
Because, you know, they do all those appliques where they're working with small shapes and stuff. So also you can use gel medium if you're wanting to do a collage with fabric and then you're wanting to layer it.
Yeah.
You can put gel medium over it, and then that way you can draw on it and do things to it, and it's not going to soak through your fabric. And then you can do another layer like that too. So that's a good way to do it if you're wanting to layer. And I've actually seen people do whole collages where they use gel medium and they just soak the fabric in the gel medium and then they do a collage like that.
Wow. That's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about that either. I've made traveler's notebook covers with maybe a piece of vinyl, like from Hobby Lobby. And then on the other side, I put paper and I just heat and bonded.
Oh.
I think I used light instead of ultra because I wanted to sew through it, but it makes it so much easier to sew through rather than having to hold them all together and fight it slipping around on the sewing machine.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So then obviously if you're going to sew, now you don't have to sew. Most of these ideas that we've talked about, you just are using glue or the heat and bond. You don't have to sew. But if you want to sew, there's all kinds of really pretty threads. My favorite is the variegated cotton thread. It's rainbow colors. And I'll link my place where I get it in the show notes. But she's got all the different. So it's variegated, but it's all blues or it's all pinks or it's all yellows. And then she's got all these different ones that I just love so much. And I like the cotton better myself because the polyester thread doesn't really lay right.
Yeah, it can twist.
Yeah, and it just kind of pokes in the air. It's real shiny. And so I just like the cotton, the way the cotton lays. Because I leave all my threads out, you know.
Yes,
so I like
love
the way
that.
it was.
Oh, yeah. I have a thread holder on my wall in my craft room because I love the look of thread.
I have one. It's in a built-in sewing cabinet that my dad got me at a garage sale. It's so cool. It's vintage. And when you open the doors, it's got the thread holder in the side of the door.
Neat.
Yeah. And some of the little spindles are broken off, but it's still
I bet
really
that's
cool.
neat though. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I need to paint it. I want to paint it like all shabby chic and, you know, distressed.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But right now it's still brown, and I won't tell you how long I've had it. and been planning to paint it.
Well, that's okay. It just takes time.
Yeah. So, okay, well, let's talk about some tips for working with fabric and fabric collage. One thing that I was going to talk about was places that you could source fabric. You can obviously buy beautiful fabric at the fabric store or online, but then there's also really fun things that you can use. Like, one of my favorite things to do is just cut up old clothes. You get a shirt that has a hole in it. Instead of throwing it away or sending it off to the thrift store, just cut it up into squares or just rip it up into strips if you like it, obviously, if it's colors that you like, and use that for fabric. And I even buy clothes at the thrift store sometimes just because I like the fabric.
Yeah.
It's not even it's not my size, or it's not something that I would wear, but I love the fabric. And my thrift store puts stuff on really cheap all the time, like all clothes are 50 cents, that kind of thing.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. You can't get fabric for that. Otherwise,
No.
That's great. Well, in the journals that I'm making for Army, I have some old camouflage fabric that I'm almost positive is something that my husband used to wear. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and we tore it up and I'm using it in my journals, which is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is cool. And that's special. And that's also a way that you can keep, if you're wanting to do something with memories in a journal or something, you can use someone's clothing, and that is a good memory or little trick for a memory journal.
You could use your kids' baby clothes if you have any of them. That would be fun.
Yep.
I saw someone made one time that their dad had passed away, and they made the cover of the journal. They used the collars from the shirt and then part of the shirt, one of his shirts, to make it look like a folded shirt. The cover looked like a folded shirt.
Oh, wow.
And she cut up all the different shirts and she used them as pages in the journal, like fabric pages.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's
and then
really
she
cool.
put pictures of them in it and everything. It was really beautiful.
Oh, that's neat.
It was sad, but it was
Oh, yeah. But special. And if you've lost somebody, you understand that you can't, those are things that you can't replace.
Right.
Absolutely.
So tea towels are another good one. If you see a cute tea towel in the dollar spot at Target, think fabric, think about cutting it up and using it as fabric. Obviously, vintage fabrics and like vintage tablecloths and things like that are fun. One thing that I've used before are paper towels that I've used in my studio when I've gotten them all inked up and painted and everything. I lay them out flat and let them dry. And then I've actually sewn those and made a ruffle out of them. I have a video, I think it's on my Instagram, of a book that I did where I made a paper towel ruffle. It was all inked up.
Oh, cool.
That's really cool.
And I didn't even sew it. Yeah, I just used a tape runner to make the ruffle. So I'll link that one too.
That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then also dryer sheets and those color catchers that you use. I don't know if y'all use those.
I do.
What's a color catcher?
Seriously?
Oh, in your washing machine? No, I've never
Yes.
used one, but I know what you mean. Are they like dryer sheets?
They kind of are like dryer sheets. They're thicker, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And you put them in the wash.
And they catch colors.
Yeah. They soak up any excess color that might go into the water. And so then they have that color, whatever that color is, in them. And they're real thick. And so you can dye those. You can spray ink them. And then you can...
I'm going to start saving mine. I have not used those. I've used dryer sheets before, but that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why my whites aren't so white.
Could be
Because I don't have any color catchers.
Color catchers are more for colors. Like, you shouldn't be washing your whites with colors anyway. I'm just saying.
Totally joking. But yes, I know that.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, if you're washing your whites with your colors, that could be the problem.
Could be the problem. Actually, I will tell y'all, most of my laundry goes in all together.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Then you definitely need the color catchers.
Yes. And some training.
Yeah. Actually, my laundry doesn't. My kids, because they do their own laundry, they do one load. That's all they do. That's what it is.
I could see
I do have a white. Do you have this? I have a white basket and a blue basket. And heaven forbid my husband cannot figure out which basket's for the whites and which basket's for the colors.
Brett, come on now.
For so long, and he just can't figure it out. It makes me giggle all the time.
At least you giggle.
Yeah. In a house full of men, I don't even attempt. I just sort it myself.
Yes.
When we're done.
Yeah.
There's no point in even trying to get them to sort the laundry.
Absolutely agree.
Okay, laundry's fabric, so we're on topic.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Old vintage bed sheets.
Yes.
Oh, I love
Tablecloths are good
those.
places to find fabric.
And
Mhm.
vintage bedspreads like old chenilles.
Yes.
Yes, those are awesome.
Yes. Vintage hankies.
Yes, love those.
Mhm.
And I will link a couple of shops where I've bought scraps before, because some shops that sew things out of chenille bedspreads, they have scraps left over and they will sell those scraps by the bag.
Yeah.
And I love that because I don't need a whole chenille bedspread.
Right.
Right.
I have 2
Yeah.
that I've cut up now.
That
Yeah.
you've cut them up?
I have cut them up.
Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to be getting some of that.
They're in your box. They're
Okay,
ready to go.
good.
Maybe I should sell some scraps.
Yeah, hey,
Yes.
that's a good idea. If you want to do a fabric collage on a backing, then you want to use a heavier fabric or drop cloth. I think we talked about this last
Yeah.
week. You can buy a painter's drop cloth and use that as your backing, or a heavyweight muslin.
Yeah.
And then I take a photo when I'm working on a collage and I think I kind of like it and I'm going to start gluing it or sewing it. I take a quick picture with my phone.
Yes.
And then when I go back to put it back together, I've got that picture. Now, a lot of times I still don't do it the same as the picture, but for whatever reason, that takes the anxiety of it out for me.
Absolutely.
Okay, I took a picture. I won't mess it up. And then a lot of times I don't even look at the picture, but that's just this weird security blanket that I have.
Well, I will tell you, for one newsletter, probably I have sent you pictures of stuff that's not glued down, but I took a picture to make sure I could remember what it would look like.
That's really funny.
You're telling on yourself.
I know.
So now everybody's going to be looking at the pictures in the newsletter to see if they can tell if Lauri actually glued anything down.
Okay, it was only one. I'll just say that. It was only one. Probably never again.
Well, they're going to catch you if you do it now.
I know.
Okay, so another thing is if you want to create a quilted puffy look, you can use felt as batting. I mean, you can use batting, but it's kind of expensive for that use. But you can use the cheap felt that you get at the craft store as a layer underneath your collage so that when you sew it, it gives it a puffy quilted look.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, that's a great idea.
I've actually even used cotton balls before.
Really?
Yeah, when I didn't have any felt or anything, I just took some cotton balls and just spread them out like fabric and then laid my fabric on top and then sewed and it made it puffy.
Oh, that's
really
kind
smart.
of funny, actually. It is really smart, but also kind of funny.
I know.
That's great.
It's cheap too. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's even cheaper than felt.
Yeah.
The heat and bond is another good thing for if you have a lot of small scraps. I save the tiniest scraps. It has to be.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be only like 2 threads, for me to not save it.
Mhm.
And even then, I'm like, I could put this with the threads because I save threads too. I'm such a weirdo.
I do the same. I totally do it.
So if you have a bunch of teeny tiny scraps, you can take a piece of heat and bond and just lay them on the heat and bond and create this piece of collage fabric. Just lay them all out and then put some parchment paper on top and iron them down to the heat and bond.
Mhm.
And you've just basically created this new piece of fabric with all these small pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you can die
Interesting.
cut that or cut it up and use it in strips or however you want to use it.
So would you overlap the strips or would you, how would you lay them on the heat and bond?
It depends on the sizes that I have. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much overlap them a tiny bit. If you do it too much, then they're not going to get covered with the heat and bond.
Right.
So you kind of have to butt them up against each other, but they can overlap a little bit because the goal is to keep them all together in one big piece so that you can then cut them up or sew it onto something without it falling apart,
I like that. Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that.
So what else?
One thing is I like frayed edges.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do not. And if you want a really clean cut around your edges, you can use the heat and bond. And most of the time it will hold those edges if you cut it after it's been ironed on.
Mm.
But there's also Fray Check. It's called Fray Check. It's in a little bottle and it's clear. You can get it at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, everywhere that carries fabric supplies will have it. And you just run it around the edges of your fabric or the ends of your ribbon and it will prevent it from fraying. That's a lot of in that.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, that's just a tip if you want to keep it from fraying. That would probably be my biggest. Fabric's easy. You can manipulate it.
Yeah.
You can do so much with it. It's just an easy medium to use.
My only tip that I can think of really is more about sewing. May I share that tip?
Of course.
I would say if you don't sew, but you really want to learn how to sew, just get out some paper, get you a sewing machine, and go to town. That's how I learned. And now Now, would I sell something I've sewn together, like a nice bag or something? Oh, no, never, never, never. But I love sewing on paper and fabric, sewing it all together, sewing on junk journal covers or pages or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned I was so intimidated by a sewing machine until I just wanted to sew on paper so bad that I just had to get over it. And I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear people say all the time, well, I don't sew.
Right.
I don't sew, so I can't do that. And I just feel like when someone says I don't sew, so I can't sew on paper, it's like saying I don't run marathons, so I can't run out to my car and grab something out of it in the rain. I mean, it's like two completely different things. It's sewing on paper and also just sewing in your junk journal is just so forgiving. There's no right or wrong. You just stick the paper in there and just go to town. And
the more imperfect it looks, the better it looks.
Yeah, exactly. It looks pretty and it looks junky and fun. And I think that people that are very serious seamstresses, I think sometimes they scare people.
Yes.
Because they're like, don't use this kind of needle and don't use this kind of thread. And if you do this will be wrong.
Right.
When you start getting a lot of rules like that, I think it just makes people afraid they're going to make a mistake. And so then they don't want to try.
Yep.
And that's exactly what I did. I wanted to sew on paper so bad. I got a really cheap machine at Walmart. I think my husband got it for me for Christmas or something. I mean, it was like $50. It was not a nice machine, my first one. And I just stuck paper in there and started sewing. And it wasn't until like maybe almost a year later, someone said, you should change your needle out. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't do that. But
I don't think I do either.
And I still don't.
No, me neither.
I've never changed my needle.
Oh my
unless
gosh.
I think I broke one time trying to sew through something.
Oh,
that might scare somebody too. Like, oh no, what if you break the needle? Well, then just take it out, put another one in there.
I've broken several needles.
Yeah.
One time through my finger, but that happened. Be careful where you put your fingers.
Yeah.
I've done that twice. It has sawn through my finger.
Oh my gosh. I actually saw my mom do that once.
Oof,
she was trying to show me how to quilt. I think she was looking up at me and saying something, and she kind of just kept going, and it went right in her thumb. And I was like freaked out. And she was like, it's fine.
Oh, I was not. I was so not fine.
My husband wasn't either. Oh gosh, he was real woozy.
Yeah, well, Nathan was too, because what happens when I do it, I walk straight to him with the, hanging out of my thumb, and I'm like, help!
Did you really?
Yeah, and he just starts shaking his head. He's like, oh god.
I somehow I have a feeling he does that often with you, Jess.
Yeah, I told you. He has to bail me out of a lot of situations, such as that.
That's funny.
Also not surprising.
Right.
Oh, boy.
When we were talking about the fray check, I wanted to mention that I just saw a really good tip on a class that I am doing on Creative Bug, which, by the way, they renewed that deal that we were talking about last month, that $50 for the whole year.
Oh, wow.
So if you didn't get in on that, you can still do it. And I'll put the link in the show notes to that deal, because I'm not sure if it's on the website or not, but you get $50 to spend at Joann's, and then you get the whole year of Creative Bug.
That's
but
so
anyway,
awesome.
And I love it so much, because I love that you can just, if I just think of something, I just want to know this one thing about this. I can go search for that class and fast forward to that part in the video about that. So I just love it for that. But I was doing this class that's like a cloth. She's doing like a cloth book. I can't remember what she called it. I'll find the name and put it in the show notes. But one of the things that she told us was to put gel medium on the seam of the fabric, on the fold where you're going to fold it before you cut it, because you have to cut a little slit in it for this book that we're making, and that would seal it up so that when you cut it, it's kind of like fray check using the gel medium.
Oh, okay.
So
that is good.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really good tip if you're cutting slits in something for a pocket, or maybe on the edges of something and you don't want the fray, which I'm like you, Jess. I love the fray. I want the fray all the time. I do not want to check my fray.
Yeah.
No, just no, don't check it. Don't check it. Just say
Don't
no to
check the
checking the
prey.
prey.
But if you do, you can use gel medium for that, and it works really good. So I liked that tip a lot.
That is a good tip.
Hashtag don't check the fray.
Don't check the prey.
That's got to be our new hashtag.
So another thing that I was going to say, if you're wanting to try the collage where you're making an actual design, if you separate your scraps into lights and darks and mediums and try not to look at the pattern, but just look at the color and also, I don't know, is shade the right word?
Mhm.
Whether
Yeah,
it's
the
light or
tones,
dark.
Yeah, the tone. Yeah.
The tone, yeah. And one thing that helps me is I'll squint at it. I'll close my eyes almost completely, so all I can really see is the color.
Yeah.
That's kind of brilliant.
That helps me sort it into the different piles, because then it's kind of like crayons or paint when you're looking at a picture that you want to try to create and you're like, well, I need something dark. Now you've got it all separated into your darks and your lights, and then also by color, obviously.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. That like I yawned as I was saying, "Oh, that was terrible, wasn't it?" I'm really sorry.
Leave it
about
in,
that.
Melissa. Leave it in. Are we boring you, Jess?
I know. I was going to say, are we keeping you awake?
That's the remnants of all weekend out of town at a ball tournament.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Okay, let's talk about some techniques that you can use on fabric. You can print on fabric, which we've talked about before on this show. And
Yes.
there's special fabric that you can buy made just for printing. But there's also other ways that you can do it. And freezer paper is one of those ways where you can just take some fabric like muslin and iron it onto a piece of freezer paper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I was thinking it was wax paper. That
No,
might have been
no.
bad.
No.
Freezer paper. I got it.
Yeah. You're going to get a mess if you try to iron wax paper onto your fabric. But then you just cut it to 8.5 by 11 and run it right through your printer. And so you can print the printables, the collage paper, you can print that on muslin, and then you have collage fabric.
Yep.
Which is
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
That's what I've been making those dolls out of.
Oh, yeah. We were going to talk about your dolls.
Can we not? Can we not talk about
You know
the
what?
dolls?
Can we cut Lauri out of the rest of this, please? She's going to be ugly about my dolls.
Lauri thinks that Jess's dolls are creepy.
They're so creepy, y'all.
Lauri has unresolved issues.
That's probably true.
Anyway, I've been working on a video because I'd had several people ask for one, and I use the collage paper, and the one that I'm working on that'll be in the video actually has the butterflies also. So the summer collage papers with the summer butterflies, and then the Angelina fibers that Lauri told us about are all on her. So it's lots of texture elements and different things. But the freezer paper method, y'all, I have fallen totally in love with it.
And are you going to show that in your video?
Yes, I'm showing it in the video. I have it in there. Yep.
Now, here's the thing, Jess, because you sent me a picture of your newest doll.
Yeah.
And I really do think she's adorable.
Right.
And I think it's because you haven't stuffed her body.
But that's the whole
so
point
she
of
doesn't
making
look creepy anymore.
a doll.
Well, how about we just make her a drawing, a flat piece of
Well, she
art?
was a drawing to start with because I drew the face.
She's really cute. But then you stuff the body and it just ruins the
Well, you know, this is the sad thing. And can I just say this before we move on? She also
Please
doesn't
do.
have arms or legs yet that I sent you the picture of. And you don't
noticed
find that
that.
creepy.
Well, I find it less creepy than a stuffed doll. I don't know why. Isn't that kind of weird? I don't know why that is, but I
It's
really do
weird.
find it less creepy.
And in case you don't know what we're talking about, we will put a picture in the show notes.
Yes.
And if you get the newsletter, you've already seen a picture because I think we sent that out last week of
Yeah.
your super cool doll that you made.
I love
So I'm
that.
excited for that video, though.
Yes. And this one's my favorite so far. So she hasn't come out yet. Y'all will get a picture of her. Hopefully before this episode airs, I'll have her finished.
She is really cute.
Yay.
I will give you that.
Yes.
So, okay, image transfer on fabric. Have you done that before? Have either of y'all done that
I have
before?
not.
No.
It works pretty much the same way as paper. You just use matte medium and lay the image down on it and burnish it and then rub it off, and it works pretty much the same as paper. And I saw recently I saw someone do it on a piece of organza, that really thin.
Oh,
And
yes.
it was really cool because it's see-through, so you can see whatever's underneath it too. So I really want to try that
That's
too.
neat. Do you know, I know this is a little bit off topic, but since we've already talked about it, did you know you can image transfer on a jelly plate?
Yes, like the magazine.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Didn't we talk about that last week?
Yes.
Well, if we did,
We did.
forgotten about it. Well, it was great. I'm so glad we talked about it because I didn't know such a thing existed.
I've never
Oh,
been
gosh.
hugely successful with that.
I
but
haven't.
I'm
I
sure
tried
it's
last
user
week. I
error.
wouldn't either. Yeah. Well,
I've-
I did. I think part of it is I saw a video this last week of somebody who she let it dry in between certain layers. I can't remember which particular ones, and so she said that made all the difference. So she tried a few different ways and finally found a way that worked. So I think you might just have to play around with it.
Well,
But
give me
anyway.
that link for that video so we can put
Okay.
that in the show
Yeah,
notes.
it's Karen Tamir is the artist.
Okay.
And yes, I will find it.
So another fun thing to do is to use a picture from a coloring book and fill it in with fabric, like the mosaic that we were talking about. You can do that, especially if it's a simple picture like a flower or a heart or something, and then you can fill it up with fabric, and that looks really pretty.
Oh, on that note, this hit me when we're talking about collage because I've done this a lot with applique and different things of that, but it would be a collage in itself. Is if you have a picture from a coloring book or print one out online, you can cut it out and transfer it, just draw around it onto your heat and bond, and then cut out the different colors of fabric to create your collage with that picture.
Oh, yeah, that would be really cool because then you've got your glue is already there, basically.
Yes.
So another thing is you can dye fabric with either obviously fabric dye, but also spray inks. If you're not planning to get it wet or you're not going to wash it, you're not going to wear it, you can dye fabric with spray inks.
Yeah.
And I've done that with seam binding ribbon before and muslin, or you make fabric tags out of muslin and then you can dye them with your spray inks and it looks really, really pretty.
I've done it with some old lace. I was surprised at how it didn't look at all like it had been dyed. I was really impressed with how well it took the color. It was great. Yeah, it was really cool.
And another cool thing with that is if you just spray the ink on it while you're trying to dye it, then when you lift it up, your lace creates like a stencil on your paper too. So then you get the lace look. I don't know what I'm trying to say. The lace impression.
Yeah. I totally get that. Yep.
On that note too is, and I have not tried this, but I was just reading somebody who was talking about it. And she said that you can use glue to make kind of a resist. So you take Elmer's glue and you write, let's say, your name on a piece of fabric, and then you let it dry. And then you dip it in the dye, let that dry. And I guess this would have to be permanent dye because then you use hot water to wash the glue off.
Yeah.
And now it's left it white. So she had made a scarf. And she had taken just a blank scarf and she had written in big letters. She had just written words all over it. And then she dyed it and then washed that glue out. And so then the words were white. And then the scarf was, I think, pink. And it looked so pretty.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
So I was thinking that would be a really fun way to do like a page background.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do that resist and then dye it. You can create fabric pages in your journal by just folding the fabric in half. But one thing that I've done is to sew it to tracing paper or deli paper. And then that gives it some stability and it crinkles when you turn the page, which I really love. And then you can still sew it too and do things to it, but it just gives it a little more stability than just having a floppy page.
Yeah.
Do you sew it all around all the four edges?
Yes, unless I want to make a pocket. Like the one I just did in my inspiration journal, I just sewed up 3 edges and then it was like a pocket and it was fabric on one side and clear on the other.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that was really neat.
Glassine paper would be cool with that. I don't know if it would be, it probably would be as stable, right?
Yeah. In fact, I think it might have been glassine that I used. I can't remember.
Glassine paper is the best.
Yeah. So that wraps it up on our collage ideas and our fabric ideas. And now we want to talk about our challenge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So our challenge this week is for you to make a fabric collage, and you can use any fabric you want and you can do any of the ideas that we've mentioned, or you can come up with your own idea to use fabric, but challenge yourself to, if you don't have some pretty fabric that you like, go find an old shirt or an old tea towel.
Yes.
Or go to a garage sale. Clothes at garage sales are super cheap. And just get a shirt that you like the color of and cut it up and use it as fabric and make a collage. So our word for this week is connect. And you can use that literally on the page, or you can just use that to inspire what your page is about. However you want to work it in. It's just another level to the challenge to help you create your page or your collage. And if you do participate in the challenge, make sure that you use the hashtag Creative Faith and Friends, because we are looking for people to give prizes to every week. We are taking turns giving prizes. Myself or Lauri or Jess will have a prize for you. So on that note, we have a new prize winner this week, right?
Yes, we do. Our new prize winner this week did an awesome beeswax collage on Instagram. You need to go check her out. She did a fantastic job. And it is at Aria Area. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Quilt. ARIA_QUILT. So yay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for participating and using the hashtag.
So if you would like to win a prize, be sure to use Creative Faith and Friends. And we did want to mention that we are open to giving people prizes. Even if you've already won, you're still eligible. So don't feel like you've already won, so you're not eligible. We're still picking anybody. We don't mind if you've won already.
And we're still picking, if you haven't won a prize and you posted way back at the beginning of our podcast, we're still going through all of those. So it's not a different group of people each week.
Yes. It's not just for this week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We were looking today, and we're just going to keep choosing them every week. So even if it's older, you still have a shot. You're still in the running. So.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's see. Are we ready for fun finds?
Yes.
Yes.
My fun find for this week is sunglasses, actually, and they are called Goodr, Goodr, which apparently is all the rage, leaving out vowels, but they didn't leave them all out, so I don't really get that, but whatever. But everybody leaves vowels out of things these days. At any rate, Goodr.com, and they have these awesome sunglasses. They're really lightweight, I guess. Plastic,
super lightweight,
right, Jess? Are they plastic? Super lightweight. They don't slip down on your nose. So Jess and I actually found them together, and she was saying that her sunglasses slip down all the time when she runs, so she can't run with them. Have you run with these, Jess?
No.
Okay, but you will.
I say I didn't. Slip. I actually might have, but no, I have worn them all weekend at a ball tournament when I get really sweaty, and I might jump up and down at times when I get a little excited, and they do not slip.
Yeah, they are awesome, and they're very inexpensive. They're $25, $35. So, we're not in the $100, $200, which is awesome.
That's right. And super
I highly recommend them. They're very comfortable, and they're super cute. Lots of fun colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's especially good for when you're out doing stuff, or like you're going to an amusement park or something. So, Jess, what's your fun find?
Okay, my fun find is going to be going along with talking about fabric and sewing. This Christmas, I got an Oliso, I don't know how they pronounce it, the small irons. We're not going to say mini iron because we've talked about those with the beeswax collage, but it's a smaller iron, and they are wonderful for fabric collage.
Yes.
I use it for everything, although I don't typically iron our clothes. They go in the dryer and then they come out. But when I'm sewing, I do a lot of ironing, seams and collage aspects, because even on my Bible covers, I do some collage, and it's wonderful for all of that. They get really hot, which helps with any cotton fabric that you're using. And I love the little Oliso iron.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So we will put the links to those in the show notes. I have a funny iron story for you before I tell my fun find. When my youngest son was, I want to say he was 5 years old, I went to get the ironing board out in the kitchen, and he came in there, and I was getting it out, and he said, "What's that, Mama?" And I was like, oh my gosh, my son is 5 years old, and he's never seen an ironing board.
That's so funny. That is so funny.
Oh, yeah, that would happen at my house, I'm sure. I don't iron anything unless it's in my craft room.
I know, me either. That's
Mhm.
the only place I use my iron, on paper and beeswax and
Yep.
stuff.
Exactly.
So, okay, well, my fun find is also to do with fabric, and it is so, so cool. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this, so there's probably going to be pronunciation issues. I think it's pronounced Terial Magic. Terial is how it's spelled, and I will link it in the show notes. But it's a fabric stabilizer, and you spray your fabric with it, and it once it's damp, then you iron it to get it dry the rest of the way, and then it stiffens up, and it literally turns your piece of fabric into a piece of paper.
What?
Like,
Wow.
it's amazing. It's stiff. So that's not even the coolest part. So then you've got this stiff piece of fabric that's like paper. You can just stick it right in your printer. You can put it in your silhouette or your die cut machine because it's stiff, like paper.
Wow.
You can fold it like origami style, fold
And it'll
it.
crease
And it
hold the crease?
yes, and it holds the
Wow.
crease. But here's the really cool part. Whenever you're done, like let's say you cut something out of it or you cut it into a shape, then you
Mhm.
can rinse the Terial Magic stuff out and it goes back to fabric.
No way.
Yes.
That
it's
is
so,
wild.
yeah, it's
How did
so
you
cool.
find out about that?
I don't know. I think I saw a video, but the video is like 5 years old, so it's been around for a long time. If you go on the website, and I will link it, they have tons of videos showing different ways you can use it. It is really, really neat. And I'm just started playing with it, so I don't have a ton of things to show you that I've done yet, but it's just so fun to play with. What I want to try is using it on muslin that's just plain that I can then run through the printer without, because imagine if you could do that without having to iron it onto freezer paper.
Oh, yeah. Can you cut it with a cutter? Like a paper cutter?
Yeah.
Really?
It's really weird. I don't know that it would work on really thick fabric because it's made to take thin fabric and make it stiff so that you can do stuff to it. So, but it is really fun. Definitely worth experimenting with.
All right, Jess, sounds like something else for us to
I
buy.
know, right?
Yay, this time I'm making y'all buy something.
Right. Oh, right,
Oh
because
my
we
gosh.
never do.
Yeah, no.
True. Okay, well, before we go this week, we want to tell you where you can find us online. Lauri, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram or YouTube under Measure Once, Cut Twice with periods in between the words.
And Jess, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram or YouTube at Just Give Me Jesus or on Etsy at Choose Joy in Jesus.
And you can find me at pinkpaperpeppermints.com or at pinkpaperpeppermints on Instagram and YouTube. So we will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us, and we can't wait to see your fabric collages.
Yes.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Okay, creative friends, what is your vote on collage dolls? Creepy or cute? And do you think you'll be using our new hashtag, Don't Check the Fray, or do you prefer tidy fabric edges? Leave us a comment on my blog at pinkpaperpeppermints.com/podcast and let us know. You can find links to everything we talked about in the show notes at pinkpaperpeppermints.com/017. And as always, if you have a moment to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, we would be so thankful for that. It really helps the show. I'm Melissa Olson, and I hope you have a week filled with peace and grace, and we will see you next time on Creative Faith and Friends.